In the previous episode, Alero, an elegant, wealthy woman who lived in a beautiful mansion in the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, lived without curtains in her beautiful home because of the mysterious face she usually sees behind the curtain when she turns it off at night. For some years, the face behind the curtain stopped appearing, but as the years passed, the face returned, this time appearing to her even without curtains in her home and even without lights being on. One rainy night, Ehe went in search of help from an old woman called Madame Ifeoma. Madame Ifeoma told Alero that the only solution for her was to confront her fears. Suddenly, memories of her past began to surface. Her childhood in Lagos, growing up in a household that valued wealth and power above all else. The coldness of her parents, the way they had dismissed her emotions and vulnerability as weaknesses. She had grown up believing that showing fear was a sign of failure, that she had to maintain control at all costs. Even when she had first seen the face behind the curtains, her instinct had been to avoid it, to control the situation by removing the curtains rather than confronting the spirit. "I've been afraid of losing control," Alero murmured, more to herself than to Madame Ifeoma. "I've always had to be in control, to keep everything perfect, no matter what it cost me." The old woman nodded. "The Watcher has been feeding on that fear for years. Now, you must face it, truly face it, or it will consume you." With a newfound sense of determination, Alero stood. She understood now that this wasn't just about the spirit in her house. It was about her own fear, her unwillingness to confront her vulnerability, to let go of the rigid control she had imposed on her life. "I'm ready," Alero said, her voice steadier than before. "Tell me what I need to do." Madame Ifeoma handed her a small, flickering candle and whispered a prayer over it. "This flame represents your inner light, the truth you've hidden from. Take it back to the house. When the Watcher appears, you will know what to do." Alero nodded, clutching the candle tightly as she made her way back through the storm. The mansion loomed before her, its windows dark and foreboding. But this time, Alero didn't feel the same dread. She stepped inside, the candle's soft light guiding her. As she moved through the house, the Watcher's face appeared again, this time in the mirror by the staircase. But instead of retreating, Alero stood her ground. She held up the candle, her heart pounding. "I'm not afraid of you," she whispered, her voice firm. "Not anymore." The face wavered, the hollow eyes narrowing as if in recognition of her defiance. Alero stepped closer to the mirror, the light of the candle growing brighter, stronger. The Watcher's image began to fade, its presence weakening. And in that moment, Alero understood. This was no ghostly figure meant to torment her. It was a reflection of her own fear, given form by her refusal to face the darker parts of herself. As the Watcher finally vanished, dissolved by the light of her newfound strength, Alero breathed a sigh of relief. The house was silent, the oppressive presence gone at last. She had won. Not just over the spirit, but over the fear that had controlled her for so long. From that night forward, Alero's mansion remained curtainless, but now the absence was a sign of freedom, not fear. She no longer needed to hide from the shadows, for she had found her light within. Alero's victory over the Watcher transformed not just her home, but her entire outlook on life. She had always been admired for her elegance and wealth, much like Ada's fairy tale beginning. But beneath all the luxury, Alero had been living in the shadow of her own fear, unable to fully embrace her freedom. Now, that fear had been conquered. As days turned into weeks, Alero began to feel a new energy in her mansion. Without the oppressive weight of the Watcher, her home was filled with light and warmth. She even invited Adora back for dinner, no longer needing to hide behind her carefully maintained facade. The two women shared stories, their bond deepening, and Alero confided how she had finally let go of the need to control every aspect of her life. "You know," Alero said thoughtfully as they sipped wine on the terrace, the wide, curtainless windows framing the night sky, "I always thought power came from keeping things in order, but I've realized real strength is about letting go." Adora nodded, smiling warmly. "It reminds me of a story I heard once, about courage, sacrifice, and facing your destiny head-on. Sometimes, You have to destroy the things you hold most precious to save yourself. Alero grinned, recognizing the truth in her friend's words. In her own way, she had followed a path of quiet bravery, much like the heroes of ancient stories. The Watcher had been her mirror, and by facing it, she had stepped into her true self. From then on, Alero's home became known not for its strangeness, but for its openness. People marveled at the way the light always seemed to fill her home, how the lack of curtains made everything feel more connected, as though the inside and outside world had merged. The mansion no longer carried an air of mystery. It had become a symbol of resilience, a place where fear had been faced and conquered. And Alero, the woman who had once been haunted by shadows, now walked in the light of her own strength. As time went on, Alero's life in her curtainless mansion became a testament to the power of vulnerability and resilience. She had transformed her home from a place of fear into a sanctuary of light and openness, where every window framed not just the outside world, but also the stories of her journey. The mansion became a gathering place for those seeking inspiration and healing. Alero hosted workshops and talks, inviting speakers who shared their experiences of overcoming fear and embracing authenticity. People from all over Lagos came to her home, drawn by the warmth and acceptance that radiated from within. The stories shared within those walls fostered a community of strength, where individuals felt safe to confront their own shadows. Alero also built deep connections with her neighbors, many of whom initially viewed her eccentricity with suspicion. They began to understand her openness, and slowly, the stigma of living without curtains faded. They appreciated her courage and saw her not just as a wealthy woman, but as a beacon of light in their community. Months turned into years, and the once haunted mansion thrived with life, laughter, and love. Alero found joy in her friendships, her work, and in her ability to help others navigate their own fears. She no longer felt the need to maintain a facade. She had embraced her true self, flaws and all. On quiet evenings, Alero often stood by her windows, watching the sun set over Lagos, its golden light spilling into her home. She marveled at the beauty of the world outside, how vibrant and full of life it was, unfiltered and raw. The face that had once haunted her was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the strength she had found within. Alero had learned that living without curtains was not merely about physical exposure, but about embracing the full spectrum of life, its joys and its challenges. She understood that true freedom came not from hiding away, but from allowing herself to be seen, to connect with others, and to inspire them to find their own light. In her heart, Alero knew that she had transformed her greatest fear into her greatest strength. The curtains may have been gone, but in their place was an unyielding spirit, ready to shine brightly in the world, forever unafraid to face whatever came next. And with that, Alero closed a chapter of her life that had once been marked by fear, opening the door to a future filled with hope, love, and unbounded possibility. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the last segment to this beautiful story, please drop a like on the video and leave a comment on your favorite part of the story, moral lessons, character arcs, and so on. Also share the story with your friends and family. It's been a long way getting here, and I really appreciate all of you who watched all the 2 parts of the story to the end. Thank you once again, and do subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on our next story, and as always, do have a lovely day. Thank you.